Hey guys, Board now back with you. Hope you are having a good holiday season as we approach the new year. So this is going to be a sort of a quick review summing up my thoughts on the new BBC miniseries based on Black Narcissus, which the final episode aired today. It's a 3-part miniseries all wearing over this week. So if you want to check it out, if you've missed it and feel like it's something you want to see, it'll be on the iPlayer, of course, for you to check out. So this is my quick sort of overall thoughts and summaries. And in case you don't know, it's based on a novel, but it's also based more famously on a 1947 film. I'm pretty sure I've got the year right. It's in the 40s anyway, the film was made. Very famous film by Powell and Pressburger, a real sort of seen as a masterpiece of cinema, which I would definitely agree with. It's one of my favourite movies, probably ever. I'm a big Powell and Pressburger fan. So you had all that in the background, and obviously this is a 3-part mini-series, so they've had to kind of... You've got new characters in here, and they've got other sort of certain subplots that weren't in that film, but... basically it is the main story and the sort of general same story and exploring sort of similar themes, but again it's sort of updated certain parts of that, I guess. So you have Gemma Arterton as the lead as sister Claudia, and she is like the head of this like coven of nuns, and they travelled to a location in India to set up basically a school and a place of parish. And they arrived there to set things up, and basically there's certain conflicts that come out with the local and with kind of the sort of like the almost like royal family sort of thing of India who are running the place. But there's particular tension because of this particular character. His name's Mr. Dean, and in this version he's played by Alessandro Novera. And the whole thing is that he's kind of like a handyman. He's there to help them with repairs and stuff, or to kind of build things or whatever needs done to kind of get the place sort of ship straight, and so that they can basically, they're teaching like the local kids and kind of teaching them English and different lessons, and obviously at the same time it's a place for them to like carry out their religious sort of duties. So a big part of the tension of the story comes from the fact that Mr. Dean is kind of has this very aloof sort of swagger to him, where he's seen as a more sort of daring and dangerous, sexy sort of character who's basically comes in and like ruffles the feathers of these nuns and their lives. And you have a younger nun, Sister Ruth, who's played by actually the actress out of The Fall, for anyone who's seen that. Because she's under like the hood and all that, I didn't realise it was her, but I looked and it was. And for anyone who's seen that, she's a really good young actress. Has a lot of promise. I want to say her name is something like Azeline Show, something like that. I've probably got that completely wrong, but she was really impressive in The Fall, and actually really well cast in this. She's the whole point of her character is that she's sort of younger and more impressionable, and is kind of develops a crush on Mr. Dean, and as the drama goes on, she starts acting out and kind of trying or sort of claims kind of bullshit on some of like the ideals and values which Sister Claudia is preaching. So that's sort of the crust of the drama, and Sister Claudia is like wrestling with her own demons, because we see through a bunch of flashbacks that before she joined in the church, before she joined in the faith, she was in a relationship, and things started going south, and little bits are revealed where the relationship didn't quite work out, and we ultimately learn that's why she joined the church. But we see sort of flashbacks, so she is kind of having this crisis of faith and questioning herself, and obviously Mr. Dean's appearing is sort of shakes things up, and the idea is that there's sexual tension there, even though she's a lot more, she sort of feels like if there is any, she can't give into it, and she has to be the leader of the group and stuff. And as I said, one or two subplots as well. There's a supernatural subplot as well. But that's the gist of it. And just to give my overall thoughts, because boy was I bored with this. I thought it was really dull. It was like watching paint dry, really. And I think I'm going to really broaden this out and discuss like the issues with BBC drama in general, and why it's still like lagging behind a lot of, the really exciting cutting edge TV that has come out of America and certain other places. And the streaming services, and it's just because of stuff like this. I mean, they've taken Black Narcissus. It's, as I said, the film's an absolute classic. It's a masterpiece, and part of that was because of the energy and the power that Powell and Pressburger brought to it. They brought a real sense of danger and excitement, and the psychology of it was just so perfectly, but there was something unique and mysterious about it. And I think the beauty of it was the fact that the plot itself was so straightforward, and yet they just got so much out of it and made a really compelling and beautiful film. And I think that highlights some of the issues with this, because they just drag it out to 3 episodes, which, okay, it's a TV version, it's a mini-series, and they have to try and do different things like that. And I'm not against them, re-adaptation. It's obviously all these years later, they can do different things with it. But I think as you sit through it, it just feels like this sort of slow, plodding, middle-of-the-road BBC adaptation. And the problem is it just feels like kind of this very dry, as I said, middle of the road, soapy sort of thing that just feels so safe and polite. And I think that just gets into the crust of it when you see the performances, how mannered it is, how worthy it is. There's some really dreary dialogue. They sort of leave no stone unturned when it comes to like melodrama and itching every little bit of tension isn't the word, because there's very little tension in it, but every little bit of like drama out of these tiny situations. I'll talk a bit about actually the miscasting, because I think Gemma Arterton, she's really miscast in this. I thought when I heard she was in it, I thought, okay, great, I kind of like her and I can see that working, but it just doesn't. I think she needs to be in a role where she sort of thrives on sort of being quite, I don't know, sort of dangerous, quite sort of feisty, and have a bit of sex appeal. And obviously the point of the character here is that she's kind of hiding that, she's resisting that, and it just felt, like it just restricted her too much, like it was working against what her strength sort of was. I thought she seemed too sort of dialed down. To make matters worse, I thought there was almost no chemistry between her and Alexandra Nova, and he's an actor I quite like as well, but here he just looked bored, really. He just looked like this kind of, this kind of pretty, kind of guy, man of the world, but you never really got that from him. As I said, he just looked bored. There wasn't a lot of like energy to his performance. And I think the chemistry wasn't there between them, and you do need chemistry between those two characters and the actors for the role, for the drama to really work, because at least in the original film so much of the drama came from that. But as I said, it just feels like a soap opera. There's these sort of subplots tacked on, like there's a drama between, like, you've got like this Indian sort of prince, and you've got like a young girl who's like been brought into the school, and they have to sort of teach her English and what have you. And she seems, quite nervous and fragile, and she starts fit. But they're having like a romance on the side, and it gets exposed, and it becomes a drama in the middle of like the third episode, which just felt out of nowhere, like they were bringing in all these issues to do with like the different cultures, to do with the way, like in Indian culture traditionally, girls are sort of treated with, because they are made, they sort of, once all this brought out, they insist that we'll whip her 3 times, and then kind of you can have her then, we won't take her away from you, because obviously there's like Mrs. Claudia sort of like protests this, and it sort of brings up all these issues of like gender and tradition, but it kind of came out of nowhere. They didn't really do that much to set it up in the other 2 episodes, so it felt forced. And even that scene, the scene which you would think, oh, this will be edge of your seat, this will be tense, when she's kind of being whipped 3 times with it, just feels like nothing, and it just feels over the top and like melodramatic. But you just have these examples of these drama, these subplots that are sort of tacked on, I guess, because they need a bit more to beef up the running time. That just does nothing. It sort of feels like, this soap, or this sort of feels like Black Narcissus as done like an episode of Upstairs Downstairs, basically. And then some of the stuff with there's a ghost story, as I said, a previous this place has a past sort of thing, and that bleeds into like the Sister Ruth plot. And I like that actress. I think she was well cast, and she did a good job. But even so, that stuff, maybe if they went a bit further with it, because I thought, okay, well, that could be something that could have a bit more mystery and intrigue, but they just kept jumping back and forth, and you get moments where it's like, oh, it's perking up, and then it'll go to something else, and it always felt like it was sort of on the fringes of things, and it never really amounted to that much interested. And they just do these occasionally, like these quirky little things, because Sister Ruth in the final episode, where she's like really rebelling, and she basically escapes, and it leads to like the famous dramatic scene on the top of the sort of the clock tower, the bell tower, whatever you want to call it. There's this weird sort of thing where she dresses up more sexually, or more sexualized, and it's obviously because she's got a crush on Mr. Dean, and she's going to try and seduce him, basically. But also I got the impression she was intentionally trying to look more like Mrs. Claudia, because I think she kind of has called her out a bit on her hypocrisy. It's almost like she's saying, well, you've got a crush on him, almost. You are hiding like these sexual sort of feelings, so you're a hypocrite, and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, it's almost like they went for something there where it was, okay, I'm being a bit more sexy, I'm sort of mirroring what Mrs. Claudia looks like, but as I said, it didn't amount to a great deal. You've got a strong supporting cast. You've got Jim Broadbent, who's not in it very much, but he's in it a little bit. You have Diana Rigg, the late Diana Rigg, so very late role for her. Gina McKee's in there. I like her a lot, but her Geordie accent I did find very distracting in this. It's sort of weird that they would go for like a strong regional accent like that in the middle of this sort of drama. But that's pretty much it. I thought it was really dull, really tedious. Things suddenly came to life in episode 3, but that in itself felt really forced. It felt like they were suddenly going for something. But yeah, just really bland and middle of the road. And yeah, I wouldn't recommend Black Narcissus. I would say watch the original film. It's an absolute masterpiece. This was dull as ditch water, and I think it just shows BBC you've got to do better. So 3 out of 10 I'm going to give it for a rating. And thanks for listening. I'll see you guys later. Goodbye.